123, followed by the FCT with 100. Delta has 58 cases, Edo 52. Ogun State has 42 new cases, Katsina State 24, Bayelsa 23, and Rivers State 22. Others include Borno has 19 new cases, Plateau and Ondo states have 18 each, Oyo 17, Kwara has 15, Osun 13, Enugu has 9, Nasarawa 7 new cases, Abia has 6, Cross River has 5, Kaduna 3, and Ekiti State has 1 new case so far. Nigeria has 29,286 confirmed cases of COVID-19, with 11,828 of them discharged, while 654 patients died of the virus. Meanwhile, domestic flights are set to resume tomorrow with a presidential directive that no VIP or government official should get preferential treatment with regard to COVID-19 protocols for the aviation industry. WAEC examinations will also hold from 4th of August to 5th of September this year.
Big men, especially military men, ministers, members of the National Assembly, and the judiciary are culprits. They have all these their PAs and SAs and returns of people that are not traveling, and they insist they must take them inside and onto the aircraft by protocol. This will not be allowed, will not be permitted, they will be stopped.
The federal government has approved debt forgiveness and license fee waiver for terrestrial broadcast stations in the country. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed disclosed this at a media briefing in Abuja.
To pay the balance of 40% indebtedness within the 3 months window shall forfeit the opportunity to enjoy the stated debt forgiveness. The debt forgiveness shall apply to functional licensed terrestrial radio and television stations only.
The completion of Ajokuta Steel Company and National Iron Ore Mining Company Itape in Kogi State, which were temporarily interrupted by COVID-19, are now ready to start. Minister of Mines and Steel Development Olamilekon Adigbite said this in Abuja.
Pandemic setting, we were to host the Russian experts who are coming in to do the technical audit of Ajaokuta and of course of Nyomko in Itape. But of course, this is in abeyance until the pandemic or the lockdown, especially on air travel, international travel, is lifted.
And on the political scene, the All Progressives Congress National Campaign Council for the 2020 Edo State governorship election has been inaugurated. Chairman, Caretaker, and Extraordinary National Convention Planning Committee, May Malabuni also inaugurated the party's Edo and Ondo State Reconciliation Committees.
A wide range of consultations. We are committed to rebuilding confidence and trust, recover the glory and political fortunes of the party in all the states across the country.
And that's the morning news. The program continues with Kinsley and Jumai after this break.
Main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Today on Keep It Clean Niger mission. We visit Mrs. Johnson live in Lagos.
Helen Paul.
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I have been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To clean your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for stains in the toilet. Harpic Thick formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach.
Wow, now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
In this time of despair, our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. A chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus doom our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and for the latest developments in the business world, let's join Comfort Amadou.
Since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, the Nigerian stock market has grappled with losses from trades, with investors losing more than 257 billion naira within 5 trading days for the week ending 3rd of July 2020. Also, the total value of investment on Nigerian Stock Exchange reduced to 12.695 trillion naira from 12.952 trillion naira last week. In view of the uncertainty in the capital market, the Association of Securities Dealing Houses of Nigeria is working out strategic measures to harmonize trades across financial market dealers, including the National Association of Securities Dealers, NASD, to strengthen the capital market, as investors also lost 161.75 billion naira after the trading session on Monday, 6th of July 2020, as all-share index contracted by 1.27%. In other stories, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board has approved the establishment of $50 million Nigerian Content Research and Development Fund to boost research and development in the Nigerian petroleum industry. The board, during a virtual meeting, announced that the council approved the deployment of the $50 million research fund for sustainable funding of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. With Business News, Comfort Amadou.
Many thanks, Comfort Amodo, for the business package. Coming up next is Newspaper Review.
And newspaper reviewer Bayo Chiobi is in the studio. Good morning, Bayo.
Thank you, Juma. Good morning.
Good morning, Presley.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Bayo, good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to begin the review this morning with from the New Punch newspaper. And just above the masthead, we have CBN debits banks 122 billion, moves to unify exchange rates. You find that story on page 20. We may propose fresh lockdown after 2 weeks, says task force, with rising COVID-19 cases among governors, others affecting governance and security. That's coming from the federal government. WAEC holds August-September dates expected for NECO NAPTEP exams. You find that story on page 2. 774,000 jobs only NDE will recruit, says Lawan, that's the Senate President. That story is on page 8. And the bold headlines there: presidential panel quizzes Magu for 6 hours over 24 allegations. With rider, EFCC boss accused of living above his means, fraternizing with corrupt persons, diversion of loot. Anti-graft commission boss may be asked to step down. MFLA finance minister to testify. And flight resumption, FG constitute COVID-19 protocols enforcement team. You can see the robots there to check temperature and all other things at the airport before you board your flight. Federal government writes off 4.2 billion debts for radio, television stations. You find that story on page 10. Kidnappers abduct Nasara Subeb Chair's aide, demand 100 million. You find that story on page 5. Police comb Benue River for 28 worshippers' body. That story is on page 9. At the bottom plate of the Punch newspaper, bandits kill 15 farmers in Katsina fresh raid. That story is on page 9. Controversy as Benue makeup artist slums dies during birthday celebration. That story is on page 4 and 5. Buhari, Tambuwal, ACF mourn APC pioneer secretary Abdul Qadir. That story is on page 8. Kese?
All right. We also take a look at the window page of the Nation newspaper. Above the name flag says federal government asks states to reopen schools, and it says WASC to begin August 4th. Details on page 25. Hiring of 774,000 remains suspended, says Lawan, that's the president. Keyamo can't strain our relationship with Buhari, that's the writer to that. Details on page 5. And below the nameplate says Edo 2020, Ganduje, PDP only interested in Edo Treasury. INEC campaigns have started officially. Congress opposes pro-Obasanjo's group's planned protest. Akeredolu, that's governor of Ondo State, tests negative as intrigues deepen. SSG resigns, replaced. Deputy governor sponsoring protest. That's another of the two riders to that headline. Lead story, EFCC chair, Magu detained. And you have a sidebar in there listing some of the allegations against him. But three of the riders say anti-graft agency boss quizzed over AGF's allegations. AGF is Attorney General of the Federation. And the acting chair may be suspended, and Malami's power block wants him out, says Pakak. And some of the allegations, as I indicated, are stated there in the sidebar. Alleged discrepancies in the reconciliation records of the EFCC and the Federal Ministry of Finance on recovered funds. Declaration of 539 billion naira as recovered funds instead of 504 billion earlier claimed. In subordination to the office of the AGF, not providing enough evidences for the extradition of Tiziani, Alison Madwike. The others, of course, are listed there. Government forgives 60% of TV and radio stations 7.8 billion naira debt. That's on page 5. And below that, another of the regularized sidebars on the front page of the Nation newspaper. The COVID-19 numbers stated there globally and, of course, Nigeria. Total deaths now in Nigeria, 654. Active cases, 16,804. And a photograph on the front page there says one of the huts belonging to bandits set ablaze by troops of Operation Hadarin Daji during their clearance operation in Basari in Katsina State, and that took place yesterday. Triplets die in Benue boat crash. That's an unfortunate incident. Details on page 4. And right at the foot of the front page, Ogoni Youth Leaders Agency incompetent. Find out the details on page 25. Rising virus cases, threat to security, also on page 25. Bio.
Yes, Kinsley, let's start on the sad note. Triplets that died in boat mishap. That happened in Benue. There was also a boat mishap in Lagos. And don't forget that this is the peak. Our rainy season is beginning to peak. And it's also the time when we see a lot of such incidents, boats capsizing on the rivers. It also happened sometime last year, if you remember, on River Sokoto, around the Kebbi area. So there's need for the National Inland Waterway Agency to be alert to all their ancillaries to ensure that at least there is enough measures taken to protect people traveling. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has clarified that its acting chairman was not arrested. Rather, the head of the media and publicity for the agency, Dele Oyewale, says that Mr. Magu honored an invitation by a presidential panel reviewing the activities of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission at the banquet hall of the State House. The Department of State, which was said to have arrested Mr. Magu, has also denounced that purported arrest. The spokesperson, the public relations officer for the Department of State Services, Peter Afundaya, says the DSS did not arrest the acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission. Blueprint, however, reports that Mr. Magu is being questioned over a letter emanating from the office of the Attorney General of the Federation regarding some activities of the Economic and Financial Commission Agency. Meanwhile, the Managing Director of the Federal Airports Authority says that the Committee on Aviation told the Committee on Aviation of the House of Representatives that all protocols for flight operations to resume has been established and all operators must abide by them. They told the visiting committee that the new normal, as far as the airport is concerned, is that passengers should arrive at the airport properly kitted with face masks. And that is to say, you will have 1.5 meters social distance to be observed. Port health officers will screen passengers before entry into the terminal building. Passengers' luggages will also be disinfected before they will be allowed entry into departure halls. Passengers have been advised in their own interest to report 3 hours before flight time because of the strenuous processes that will precede their The airport says that for the reopening, for now, is for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, and Murtala Mohammed, and by implication it means the flights will be between those two other airports. Subsequently, the other airports will open around the country. Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State.
Before you bring in Governor Akeredolu of Ondo, who has tested negative now to coronavirus after just about a week in self-isolation, the true test of whether or not the protocols outlined for the reopening of airports for domestic flights is dependent on the Nigerian big men and their syndrome. For many decades now, we've been hearing that persons should not have police escort unless for special reasons. And those special reasons are usually limited. But we have seen the exchange, the stock exchange that goes on with the use of policemen for private security duties. Each time a directive is given, stand down those policemen who are on those duties. Some of them are even sent to markets, others are holding umbrellas and carrying handbags for their madams, and so on and so forth. That order has always been observed in the breach. You watch in the first few days of the commencement of domestic flights or resumption of domestic flights, the security personnel of the big men will be the first to breach the protocol. The first question will be, do you know who I am? And then they will storm past, you know, as if coronavirus respects either their status or their uniform. So the challenge is actually with them. And the number of, please pardon my expression, number of jobless aides who normally will go with a big man to the airport. Well, ask yourself, when you go elsewhere around the country, don't you carry your portfolio yourself?
Around the world. Right?
Around the world. Does any aid come to meet you, you know, at the tunnel before you get into the airport? So it's all dependent on us. If it will work, it will depend on the big men to say, look, you cannot carry your suitcase, you cannot carry your briefcase. There are trolleys or carts to enable you win your luggage into the departure hall or into the check-in counter and so on and so forth. So let's see how it goes. And you will hear reports. And then the touts who are milling around, they will take advantage of all of that. When go to the airport, any of our airports, where you see a sign, no parking, that is where you will see SUVs in their hundreds squeezing into spaces where they are not supposed to park. What are they looking for?
Well, those are meant to be observed, and I think it's incumbent on the airport authority to ensure that those formalities are
and they come late too at the same time.
Enforced and applied. Like you pointed out, I once saw a sitting governor, in Nigeria, on the street of London. He was coming from shopping. He was holding all his items by himself and by himself alone. So the challenges is always with the security men attached to the VIPs and also the protocol officers. They tend to want to circumvent all these protocols. It's left for the National Aviation Authorities to ensure that it is. Talking about Governor Akeredolu, he has tested positive. However, he said that while he tested positive, he was asymptomatic. However, the subsequent test has indicated that he's now negative. But by NCDC protocols, he is supposed to wait for a second test before he will be confirmed to be fully positive. Yesterday we had
negative.
Negative, yes. Yesterday we had 575 new cases in 20 states. Unfortunately, 9 of our competitors have died from COVID-19. So far, our register shows 29,286. Schools in Oyo State opened for exit exam primary 6, JSS3, SS3 yesterday. This is coming as the West African Examination Council has now announced the date for the rescheduled examinations. The exams are to start on August 4th and will continue up to September the 5th. The Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, also clarified that after WAEC is done, that is when the date will be set for NECO and NAPTEC examinations. Meanwhile, there has been a meeting between National Union of Teachers and the NCDC as well as the Ministry of Information to make sure that protocols for resumption are put in place so that our students, when they go back to school, they will not be in harm's way. The other challenge coming up is that 239 scientists from 32 countries have observed that the World Health Organization should revise its protocol about COVID-19 being an airborne disease. Those scientists are saying COVID-19 is an airborne disease. The position of the World Health Organization before now was that the COVID-19 is transmitted from person to person, and therefore the droplets, when they fall on surfaces, become another avenue for infection. They also said that the transmission of respiratory droplets, when they fall to the floor, and people within that vicinity will be victims. But the scientists are saying that the droplets are capable of traveling along a room for a long time, and it doesn't drop immediately as it is envisaged. Therefore,
the droplets are like UFO.
They float throughout the room and for the distance of a larger room, not dropping immediately within the vicinity of the person. Therefore, limiting your distance to about a meter or two will have made you provided safety for you. What they are now saying is that it can go through the whole of the room. And other development is that even wearing mask will have to be worn in homes, because you don't now wear masks only when you go outside because of the former.
For those who have visitors in their house, who have people coming
when you are in your house, you will have to wear the mask.
What if you live alone?
If you live alone, then you have no cause to to wear a mask.
Good question, Juma.
Yes. These other developments.
We're running out of time, actually.
Just take the editorial.
Yeah, briefly, it's a very, very burning issue, and it's, you know, it's touching the lives of people who have worked and retired, the plight of pensioners in Nigeria. Can we talk about it here?
Yes. The editorial is talking about the fact that in spite of the new pension scheme, the contributory pension scheme, only very few states are up to date. In fact, it identifies 6 states that are up to date, which include Kaduna, Anambra, Ekiti, Edo, Ondo, and Delta. All the others are in default. And the editorial is saying that many states, after deducting from the employer their own employee contribution, the two are not remitted to PENCOM. And therefore, they are advocating that the National Assembly should empower the National Pension Commission to be able to enforce these remittances. Most often than not, the remittances are deducted but not remitted. And at the end of the day, you find pensioners retiring, and when they retire, to pay their due entitlement and monthly pension becomes a problem.
And most of them die before even getting the money.
Sadly, many because they have no other source of income
at all
other than the pension.
It needs to be reviewed, actually, because you can't, you know, work for government for 35 years and you go home with nothing. It really doesn't make sense.
It's not only in government. From the editorial, even the private sector are also guilty of these non-remittances.
That's right. Bayo Tebe, we'd like to thank you for being around. Very interesting issues we'll discuss this morning.
Thank you.
We'll see you again tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be another day. Thank you.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of NTA. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with coronavirus and a rise in cyber crimes.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects 2 persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the 2 persons have affected 4, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigeria Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Now, believe this corruption. You know if you touch black man, if you like, gather the whole Niger, come together, make a cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V and D.
I better get small pieces.
How much you want to give her?
Give me 200. Take your change now. You don't want your change.
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. No, now wash your hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so it no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No wakara make the virus for die. No forget, say, the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
You're welcome back. Now, since the discovery of COVID-19 in China and its spread to other crimes, the rate of cyber crimes increased in the view of the hike in the number of persons using the internet for various transactions, be it education or trading. Oyeyemi Ajayi gives us a mental picture of the situation as the COVID-19 ravages nations.
For months, the world has been battling with the ravaging coronavirus pandemic. The pandemic has forced many countries to go on compulsory lockdown as global figures soared. This development has led to people being confined to their homes, resulting in more productive hours spent online in a bid to meet needs and stay in touch with families and loved ones. It also became an alternative way of closing business deals and making ends meet, while the need for physical distancing subsisted. Some individuals also got to the fray, albeit with the intent to defraud the unsuspecting public. For instance, the period witnessed the rise in Ponzi schemes, all promoting the idea of staying at home and earning more. This has significantly increased concerns about vulnerable persons online, with many school children benefiting from e-learning. While at it, these students are also exposed to threats coming from the internet like file sharing abuse, inappropriate content, and pornography. Common cyber techniques such as phishing have been deployed by these fraudsters to achieve their aims. Phishing is the fraudulent practice of luring individuals into revealing personal information such as password and credit card numbers through fake websites or email. One thing that has remained common among most of the fake websites used by these fraudsters includes the Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure HTTPS address. Most website addresses sent by these fraudsters do not have the S, which is the most important in securing the website address. The unsuspecting public tends not to take cognizance of the missing S and then get scammed in the process. Experts say the internet has also become the new avenue for selling fake products as well as products that do not exist in the first place, with buyers losing their money and not getting the requested items. In addition, fake drugs and medical equipment sold at very high price allegedly for the cure of COVID-19 became the order of the day, with an increasing number of websites well designed by criminals for this sinister purpose. What should people look out for while active on the internet during this pandemic? And what can be done to apprehend the internet fraudsters? These are some of the questions begging for answers on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, with guests already seated to do justice. Many thanks to Oyeyemi Ajayi for that background. With us here in the studios to discuss this issue in further detail, we have all the experts. First, let's welcome our regular guest, Deputy Commissioner of Police, who is also First Public Relations Officer, Frank Umba. Pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria again.
Thank you, Kinsley, and good morning, Nigerians.
And also here with us in the studios is Kasim Sudengi, who is National Coordinator, Office for Nigeria Local Content and ICT of the National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA. Sudengi, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Good morning, Nigeria.
And also joining us in the studio is DCP Ifeanyi Henry Uche, Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of Cybercrime Unit, Interpol, National Central Bureau, Nigeria Police Force. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you for inviting me. Good morning, Nigeria.
And joining us via Skype from Lagos is Dr. Bayero Agabi, Member Presidential Committee on Data Harmonization and President Center for Cyber Awareness and Development, CCAD. Dr. Agabi is also Vice President, Nigeria Internet Group. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin the conversation by first bringing in the Force Public Relations Officer, DCP Frank Uba, who has been a frequent guest on Good Morning Nigeria since the coronavirus broke out in the country in February. And just before the country went into lockdown mode in March, we had you on the program, and in sketching the crime scenario in the country, there were a number of likely crimes that we're going to witness an increase. One of them, of course, we've already discussed on Good Morning Nigeria, having you. The other, as you projected, that's to say as a force, was cyber crime. What is it that we have seen in the 3 or nearly 4 months now that the country has been seeking to push back the frontiers of coronavirus in the country?
Kingsley, thank you. And like you captured clearly, we did in our projections, we did make clear that we made it clear that the possibility for an increase in cyber crimes during the lockdown and as the pandemic progresses was actually going to be high. And true to those projections, within a short time, within the lockdown period, we began to see increased activities by criminals, particularly on the cyberspace. And of course, I mean, it's very easy for the ordinary man out there to understand this. What simply happened was, or what is happening is simple. A lot of activities that were heated to carried out outside the cyberspace were pushed onto the cyberspace. And the more of these activities you begin to experience within the cyberspace, the higher the tendency and the likelihood that criminal elements could also take advantage of the cyberspace. The cyber world is just like every other invention. The computer, the internet, and all those other scientific inventions related to the cyberspace. They're just like every other technological innovations. Every of such innovations creates opportunities. Positive opportunities and negative opportunities. For those of us in law enforcement, for example, the cyberspace, the internet, the computers have thrown up a new frontier for us, a new investigative tool, a new intelligence tool. Today, we can profile suspects much more easier. We have within our intelligence arm those that monitor the online space, and then we could also gather intelligence at higher speed and at cheaper cost, just walking around and monitoring activities of persons online. But at the same time, the internet, the computer have also thrown up opportunity for criminals, and it is these opportunities that we are looking at today. Today, a lot of, and there are two ways it's happening. There are crimes that have always been out there. What simply has happened is that these crimes simply migrated from the analog mode to the digital mode. For example, fraud. We've always had fraud. We've always had issues of identity theft. We've always had all manners of this pornography, copyright infringement. We've always had them. But what has simply happened is that these criminals are taking advantage of this new technological tool to commit these crimes at a larger scale, faster, and more anonymously. But also beyond that, there's also new genres of crime, new categories of crime. that wouldn't have been there if not for this technological invention. So they are linked to the computer itself, they are linked to the internet, they are linked to the arrival of the digital space. So all these are happening at the same time, and for us, it goes beyond the coronavirus, and that's part of the message I want us to send out today. Even before the coronavirus, we've had these online scams going on, and when we talk of cyber crimes in this country, the attention is usually focused on the activities of the Yahoo boys. I can understand why, because that's the most dominant ones our people know. But there are other forms of cyber crime: cyber stalking, cyber squatting, deliberate dissemination of virus, pornography. All kinds of crimes are taking place on the cyberspace: hacking and identity theft, and these crimes are taking place. And one of the most worrisome trends for those of us in the law enforcement agents, particularly in Nigeria, is the fact that our people have maintained some kind of conspiratory silence, some kind of silence that suggests that the larger population out there are giving approval to the activities of these criminals. And what I've told people is, and the reason is simple, originally people thought that the target are foreigners. The Yahoo boys are targeting the white man or the white woman in America or in Europe, in Asia. But that's exactly the way kidnapping started. When kidnapping started out in the Niger Delta, the first set of people that were being taken hostage were foreign oil workers. But after a while, they began to take Nigerians, and today it's all over the place. And that's exactly what is happening with the cybercrime itself.
Okay, Frank, but you know, we're looking at it from the COVID-19 aspect, and it sort of opened the eyes of people to cybercrime that is happening in Nigeria. And I would like to go to Mr. Ifeanyi Harry. You know, some people, experts, described it as a brewing storm. That is, we've not seen the real impact of cybercrime in Nigeria. Were we caught off guard, sort of?
Well, I would say that we were caught off guard, honestly, because we've actually been on this for a very long time. Like Mr. Franklin, the DCP rightly said, cybercrime is not new to our society. And crime in particular, like he said, is not something that just falls from the blues. It's not alien. Now, we've actually been fighting this crime, and with the information that we have from our units and from our fusion centers, we're actually doing a lot, you know, to fight this crime.
Okay, thank you very much, DCP Harry Uche. We'll return to you on the course of the conversation. Let's bring in now Kasim Sodengi. Kasim Sodengi, of course, NIDA, it's part of the country's cyber backbone, as it were. What do we know in terms of breaches or attempts at breaches that may have occurred in the course of the corona pandemic?
Thank you very much. That's a very poignant question because the nature of cybercrime is that in some cases, I'll use the word ironically, I'll use the word you are lucky. Ironically, you know when you've been attacked. In some cases where you have what you call advanced persistent threat, it is embedded in your network for a long time, studying behaviors, studying the network, before it then introduces a thing like ransomware and you are shut down. Lately, we saw a case of the university, I think in Southern California, that they've been having 4 months of intensive research on COVID, with some approaching some breakthrough, and they've had to pay, you know, for ransomware attack. They had to pay, I think, $1.3 million, you know, to have their systems released or something in that region. The challenge is that the surface area for attack has suddenly exploded. Where we used to deal with some systems in the country, sophisticated users, banking community, some industries, some government organizations with critical infrastructure. Suddenly, all these networks are connected. Everyone is now online, as in every professional person is online. Teleworking, remote working, people are shooting mails. And the challenge has been that, you know, the challenge has always been the level of sophistication and education of understanding what to do and how to approach, you know, the cyber world. We, like he said, from the Central Bureau, these things are not new, but it's just the intensity and then the surface area, the just wide area for attack. And, you know, when you take a network approach, the attack can be introduced from any point in the network. The weakest one is we're as safe as the weakest link in the network. And that is the challenge. So we have seen challenges around identity. People are scraping identity. We've seen where personal identifiers, people's bank accounts, and there's a high risk, there's high exposure of personal information, which constitutes several forms of danger. We have seen those types of breaches and those types of crimes occurring with some frequency. But what is of deep worry to us at this time is what can happen when you have an advanced persistent attack. Because what then happens in that sort of scenario is that the computer program, the alien computer program, is embedded, is waiting. It takes its time. And that raises the, you know, the alarm bells for us, and all the sort of caution signals are up at this time. So what we've been trying to do is, at this time, NIDA has been focusing on, one, improving what we call information security. The approach is that NIDA is going to is in advanced stages of issuing, in coordination with its partners, a regulation and a framework that guides citizens on how to approach information security over the internet and information systems, from physical protection of these systems to labeling the systems adequately, to even you know, it's one thing to have a password, but it's one thing to have a password that is password 123. You see, you've not done yourself any favors. There's keyloggers. There are many ways to have access to your systems. So there are things like password complexity, the fact that you need to have a delivery program for education, for a refresher, monitoring, reporting, you know, and so on. So for us, the focus is, one, the issues of identity theft, personal data is such a crucial thing, and the first spokesperson mentioned that, you know, it's a credible threat at this time, and we've seen some activity. The second is just improving the conditions and an understanding of these threats. And what, you know, she was saying a while ago, I won't click any link I don't know. Simple things like that. Just being able to understand the rules, and then lastly, the coordination is so critical. Being able to escalate, report, share information. The biggest weapon against cyber threat today is being able to share information quickly between parties that are responsible for either law enforcement for action, so that, you know, there's coordinated and there's an understanding of what is going on. You can do what is called a triage. You know what is going on, and you know exactly how to respond. So those are some of our concerns and some of the things in consideration to manage these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. We'll now go to Lagos, where Dr. Bayero Agabi is standing by. You know, we're looking at a new world order driven by technology. How safe are we using that kind of technology?
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you for having me. We are safe as much as we are responsible on the cyberspace. Because all of this we are talking about has borders on our cyber irresponsibility. Of course, we cannot always continue to appeal to people to use the internet in a responsible manner without relevant, you know, structures as to how the nation can moderate how we use the cyberspace. For every nation, you know, if you are going to Dubai, there are certain websites you cannot log into while you are in Dubai. Same with Russia, same with China. These are countries and they're still developing. So I always advocate cyber responsibility, but government should ensure that there are structures in place to ensure moderation of the citizens as we are on the cyber space. Now relating it to COVID-19. The COVID-19, like, the barrister in the studio, a friend has just said, Sundangi, it has helped, it makes Nigeria, force Nigeria, to go online even when they are not prepared for it. Before now, majority of the people who were going online, if you didn't have the skills to go online, you engage someone to help you do it. But now, every person is going online. We are being forced to go online, one for survivability, and the second one, for presence, that we are still alive, we're doing what we are doing. So whether you have the skills to navigate the cyberspace, whether you have the knowledge to navigate the cyberspace, you just want to be there. You are forced to be there because of the COVID-19, just like as I'm doing now. But when we do it, we put our data on the cyberspace. When we do it, we put ourselves on the cyberspace, and for each time we are on the cyberspace or we are on the internet, what we do is that we are building, ourselves, we're building ourselves, image gradually on the cyberspace. And don't forget, the internet does not forget. So whatever we put in there, remains in that place. And because we lack the skills to navigate the cyberspace, then those who have the skills and deliberately want to use it in a malicious manner have much more data to work with. They have much more data to work with. So what I will always, talk about is we should lessen the anxiety, preach more on how to be safe online. And then the businesses that we have to do online, and then there are certain things we have to manage, so that we don't fall prey to those who have much more skills and are ready to use it on the other way, in such a way that it will not be beneficial to us or to any other person. And then the other one is, when we keep talking about how safe we are on the cyberspace, it also borders on our attitude and how we use it. It may sound very pedestrian, but it is very, very important. When we build our trail on the internet, and when something happens, we begin to ask questions, how did it happen? Cyber crime does not have only financial implications to do with. It also has to do with our own image, and damaging our image online has to do with all of us. You just have a baby today, and that baby, you put him or her online without his consent. You're going to your friend's party, you put it online. I'm on my way to my friend's party. You are at that party. You even write the address. I'm at number so enjoying myself. Those are the trails that cyber criminals follow. And you are traveling to US. You are in the aircraft. You snap yourself. You are in so aircraft on your way to so country. All those kind of things. So they can trail you. If they can't get where you live, they can go to trace your friend who has been to your house for a party, and who, of course, recorded it. I'm at that number, so my friend's place, having fun. From there, you can know the person's number, his house, And then you are able to trace, to understand that this guy is not at home. So you can do whatever you want to do, whether physically or online. So it all boils down to cyber responsibility and how we manage ourselves, how we manage our businesses, how we manage our finances. And then again, government has to put up structure that can help us, manage, moderate how we use the cyberspace for good.
Dr. Bayero Agabe, thank you very much there for your initial comments. I mean, while you were explaining the attitude of some players in cyberspace, that wherever they are, the next thing is a selfie and then posting it online and indicating how well they are enjoying themselves. Pretty very useful information they've given out in the first instance. I want to bring in again DCP Ifeanyi Uche of Interpol. We are discussing the Nigerian situation. But tell us, because Interpol, of course, presupposes information sharing amongst the international police organization. What do we know about cyber crimes during the period of the pandemic elsewhere in the world? Is there anything unusual elsewhere, or is Nigeria's case most unusual?
Well, thank you. Nigerian case is not most unusual, of course. Of course, everything about cybercrime is a global issue, and it's a global problem. And of course, you don't need any sophisticated tools to be able to navigate the cyberspace. Because if you watch what is happening in the world, considering the population of the world, that we have about 7.8 billion people, and you check the number of the phone users, we have close to 3 billion people that use a smartphone. Now, if you draw it back to Nigeria, you see that we have over 40 million people that have access to smartphones. And these smartphones, of course, they are all connected to internet, most of them, of course. Considering our population and considering the level of internet penetration in Nigeria and the world all over, you see that the problem is not actually peculiar to Nigeria. Before now, we've tried to sensitize all our national central bureaus. Of course, Interpol, we have about 194 member countries all over the world. And through the national central bureaus, we'll try to pass information. Information sharing is actually the major thing that we do. Once we notice anything happening, for instance, in Nigeria, what we do in Interpol is to connect to the next NCB that is actually on the receiving end to share the information about the activities of online fraudsters and the criminals. Of course, in Nigeria, we've received a lot of reports concerning some of citizens that are involved in cybercrime and cybercrime activities. And of course, we've been able to do justice to some of the cases that we've actually received. For instance, the case of 15 million euro that we were asked to investigate from our IPSE. IPSE is an acronym for Interpol General Secretariat. Of course, this is the headquarters, and they control all the national central bureaus. Of course, we have the I-24/7 communication channel through which we communicate with all the 194 member countries. That is through which we share the information. So if anything is happening in the cyberspace, what we do is to share, is to connect to other NCBs, National Central Bureaus, as I said, informing them about the activities of online fraudsters in their particular area and what to work out for.
I want to turn it back. Tell us, what picture does Interpol have of cyber crimes at the moment? I mean, if you can take it back to March, for us, that would be like the past 3 or 4 months or the past quarter. What has Interpol observed? Yes, Nigeria's case may not be unusual, but are we seeing similar spike in cyber crimes? We had a number of countries that have been heavily impacted. Italy, in Europe, for instance, in Spain, today in Brazil, and the United States, as well as Russia and China. What do we know about cyber crimes climbing up or either falling because of the pandemic in these countries?
Actually, it's climbing up. Of course, you know that criminals, what they watch out for is for opportunities. Like before now, we were engaged in physical crimes, you know, like robbery, kidnapping, and so many other things. But because of the COVID-19, so many people were asked to work from home. Of course, you must have to use your internet. And I keep saying that you don't need any sophisticated tool to be able to navigate. Because using your phone, you don't need to go to school. You can't use your phone anyhow. So because of that, most people now, mainly most of our cyber criminals, most of the youths that are not, you know, gainfully employed, most of them that don't have anything doing, that are into crime, what they do is to use the opportunity to create fake websites. Recently, we got information from our phishing center in Singapore telling us about Nigerians that have been able to create phishing kits. Before now, they use the dark web to get whatever information they want. Of course, everything is in the dark web. It's just like black market. So they use it. But now we have a situation whereby most of our cyber criminals are not developing the phishing kits themselves. Phishing, of course,
what is a phishing kit?
Phishing kit is just kits to mine. Like phishing is...
Internet phishing? Internet
phishing, of course, is just to dupe a victim into volunteering his confidential information.
So these are cyber fishermen, I suppose.
well, they are. So that's actually what they do, you know, per se. So they give us all this information to work on.
Okay, thank you so much, Mina. If I would say, I'll come now to Frank over again. You know, there's a spike, the old and the new. And Mr. Agabi is saying that government should regulate and moderate how we use the internet. A lot of things have been exposed because of COVID-19 today, and like he said, the internet fraudsters are being looked into. Some of them, the cases are on your table. You're on top of your game. But do we have a corresponding number of arrests?
Okay. I want to believe that we're all in agreement that there is a spike in internet fraud and cyber crimes generally as a result of COVID-19. And of course, we'll all understand why. Once activities were migrated from the analog platforms to the digital platforms, the criminals also simply went after those trails. They followed the trail, they followed the movement, and they equally migrated to the digital platforms. And that explains why you are now having more activities, more criminal activities going on there. Issue of arrest, yes, there has also been corresponding increase in arrest. But people just need to understand this. In cyber crimes, their modus operandi differs. For instance, you don't need a large crowd of people to commit a large amount of mischief. A young man holed up in a service apartment somewhere in Wuse or in Nyanya or somewhere in Makodi or Abakpa in Enugu or somewhere in Festac, Lagos, can cause massive online havoc just using his smart tools at his disposal. And like DCP noted, our boys are also beginning to create apps that they are also using, deploying on the cyberspace. Recently, we arrested a young man from somewhere in the north who developed an app that has the capacity to alter the IMEI numbers of all your phones. This is huge. This has a huge implication. In fact, what he simply did is to disrupt the investigative capacity, not just of the police, but also of the manufacturer of the equipment. The I number is just like the DNA. Your DNA is like the DNA of an electronics. So when we are trailing or tracking a criminal who has stolen maybe an iPhone, your laptop, or any of your equipment, including things like even smart televisions, for instance. Through your IMEI number, we can trace and track that equipment to wherever it is. But what this guy simply did was create an app on his own, locally, that can alter that number. And so once he alters the number, he throws you into dark. He throws your investigation into darkness because you can't proceed further. And he even cuts off the manufacturer, because with that number, the manufacturer of that equipment, wherever they are, can equally monitor their equipment and even get digital platform from the equipment. And that's why they can, whenever a new version of equipment is coming out, they try to improve on the existing one. But he had been able to create an app that cuts off, not just cuts off the manufacturer's link to the equipment and throw investigators into darkness whenever you want to investigate that. And we're seeing more and more of that. So when it comes to arrests, you don't expect a large number of arrests, because sometimes some of the hackers, some of the online criminals are loners. Of course, there are also cases where they are very organized. Like Uche will tell you, for example, that in investigation, sometimes you have a long chain of investigation. You have the people they call the farmers, you have the middlemen, and then at the upper level, you also have you have the farmers, the hackers, and the middlemen.
Who are the farmers?
The farmers are at the lower level. They are the ones that gathers the basic information, and that's why when Dr. Bayero was talking about what you put on the cyberspace, you need to be careful. These are the people that will gather information. Those trails you leave on the cyberspace, pick those information together, and then the hackers are the ones that use those information to do the real job. The middleman is the one who stands between the farmers and the hackers. And when money comes, for example, from the hackers. They break into an account, they move the money to the middleman. The middleman, who does very little or no job other than providing an account, is the one that warehouses the funds eventually. And when he gets the fund, he distributes the fund between the farmers and the hackers and takes his commission, and he walks away. It is only when you have those kind of syndicated crimes that you probably need to arrest so many. Other than that, a lot of hackers are loners. A lot of cyber criminals are loners. They can sit down and commit those crimes anonymously, and within the confines of one very small space. But they have the capacity to reach out to as far as New York, London, Singapore, China, Russia, anywhere.
All right, DCP Franco, thank you very much. I mean, there are new terms that we are learning this morning, cyber fishermen and then cyber farmers. Cyber farmers. Some of them will probably be cropping legumes and vegetables, while others are cropping tubers. But still, it's a big issue that we are considering this morning. I think that it's of benefit to all who are watching us and listening to our experts in the studios. I want to bring it again, Kashim Sodengi. Well, 2 points I wanted to speak to. One, it's counterintuitive to say that on the one hand, coronavirus led to a downturn in business activities worldwide. And yet, simultaneous with the downturn in business activities, we are seeing a rise in cybercrime. So what happened? And secondly, Dr. Bayero Agabi raises the point, and DCP Frank Oba has also latched on that in his explanation, to say that why is it that in Nigeria we have virtually an open season for access to all kinds of sites, whereas in places such as China and Russia, there are restrictions on the sites that you can visit while you are in their jurisdiction?
Very germane. Starting from the first one, like, you know, all the commentators have stated brilliantly, going online means, you know, there's a saying in cybersecurity, what goes up doesn't come down. And means that you have to put things up. You have to put your image up. You have to put passwords up. You have to do transactions online. You move your life essentially to the web so that you can transact. You can seem to have a normalcy in relating to others. And at the core of this is, like I said earlier, is personal information, personal identities, personal identifiers, things that have to do with you, your phone number, your account number, things that can identify you, even things like your IP address, your IME number, all those things contribute to what you may call your footprints. Because we have this tonnage of footprints, and then, you know, Dr. Agabi also spoke about, no, it was DCP who spoke about the toolkits being developed. We are grateful for artificial intelligence and machine learning and how it has enabled us to be able to do many things to aid our lives, even your phone. I mean, you talk to Siri, you do different things. These same technologies are enhancing the capacity of cyber criminals. They're able to combine information in ways you cannot imagine to identify what's going on. This issue of business email compromise, social engineering, what they call social engineering, where they monitor how you speak, how your typing strokes, everything about your behavioral approach to devices and so on the internet, and they build a profile. We're ever wondering if your web personality is not suddenly becoming more important than you as a person, physical, you know. So these are the synergy, if you like, the myriads of these things has created the challenge, you know, because of COVID and the fact that we would have to work remotely, has created this intensity, this, if you like, this dense situation where we have identities and persons and information just going up in the web and giving these people tools, I mean, information, access to work with. And these are the things that we would have to collaboratively with coordination. This requires high deal of coordination, requires education. It requires also planning and strategy on how to approach these issues, you know, between the various actors, which include, you know, organizations, industries, because again, threats could take different forms depending on the industry. I mean, how they approach, you know, the medical services might be slightly different from how they approach the banking. So we see these threats mutating and becoming even sharper and more dangerous in certain areas. So that's the one challenge that COVID has thrown to us. And the regulators and government needs to also be very careful, because at this point we are gathering and amassing a lot of data of citizens. You know, we want to know who traveled, we want to know who was with someone who was exposed, we want to know the places you've been. You know, we write all kinds of lists, we put all things on databases. We're creating and increasing the surface area for attacks. You know, these are some of the things that we will need to be deliberate about. And I'll quickly mention that it was the reason why about 3 weeks ago, NIDA issued, in partnership with Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, a framework and guidelines for management of personal data online. Just saying to regulators, you are amassing tons of information now, and you need to approach your databases and your approach, you know, and your approach has to be different. That said, on the question of some of these countries you've mentioned and Dr. Agabi has mentioned. Control. Yes, control. You see, there's always that tension between liberties, rights, and security. it's a challenge that societies, liberal democracies like ours, put forward as the big notion, as captured in our ground norm, which is the Constitution, guaranteeing liberties of citizens. Some of the countries he mentioned include either monarchies or some where there's an autocrat or some form of government that is slightly different or different, in some cases significantly different from some of the standards or what we've embedded in our own founding and holding documents. So it also has meant that the nature of laws, the nature of debates on what we should do. But what societies have done is, looking at some of the other societies that have made significant improvements, is that they've invested heavily in research, in partnerships, in information sharing. We would always need to balance that tension between having a really diverse, heterogeneous society and sort of the Nigeria is not monolithic in any way, and sort of the societies where we see that government can take almost unilateral action to determine, you know, the rights and what constitutes protection and safety. You would also see the issue, like I mentioned, of some of these societies are either homogeneous, either in culture, in religion, and sometimes political history. If you take Russia, for instance, and just sort of the situation, or China, you know, the political history has shaped things very differently, the approach of government for a long time. The challenge with a country like ours, with a lot of heterogeneity and diversity, is that when we approach each other with conversations, we need to be careful, we need to be open, so that nobody imagines another person has an agenda. So striking those balances is indeed a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge to what we can do in terms of freedoms and so on. But the real question is it surmountable? It is. We can deepen collaboration, we can deepen leadership and responsibilities. We do not have, there are no easy answers for us. That's my message. There's no easy answer. There are no easy answers. We can't shut down sites. I mean, those within the ambit of the law, that the law as it is today or will be passed, then we can't do those actions. But those that are not framed within the law, there are questions of rights, there are questions of, you know, citizens' freedoms and liberties. We will need to strike that balance between law enforcement, rights, society, diversity, and sort of the society we want to build. So these are the challenges before us.
Simpson Dangis, thank you so much for your input. We'll now go to Lagos, where Mr. Agabi is waiting. Dr. Agabi, we're talking about control. Do we need to look into the legislation? Does it need any tweaking with new developments of cyber crimes?
Well, if I heard you well, okay, let me just do a quick snap to some of the things that have been raised there. You know, all of this conversation we are having, I can liken it to all of us packed into a vehicle that is taking us from perhaps Abuja to Maiduguri, and we have our dancing and all of those things. Everything we could do inside the car, and then when we get to Maiduguri, we just disembark. And we leave maybe the canned coke and every other thing that we had inside the vehicle, and then it's now left for the driver to pick those things that we left. Those things are our data. We're discussing cyber security here, where we do not own the infrastructure. You cannot manage what you don't own. To Google, that gives us free internet, to Facebook, to some of the internet cables that brings the volume to us or gives us access. I do not know how much role government plays in all of these things. And most of you may know, because I know you're well-traveled, if you're in the UK, for everything you do, it is British Telecoms that connects you. And that is how they are able to, know what is going to preempt any cyber security breach before it happens. We are not saying it does not happen in those crimes, but it is reduced. Let me also, make this clear. Before now, a few weeks back, we were talking about 5G. We have not seen cybercrime yet. When 5G becomes 5G in this client, we are going to see everything connected. So more data to manage, more people on the cyberspace. So how are we going to manage all of these issues? Where a young boy or a girl from his bedroom or even from Benin Republic can trip off, the traffic light in a particular place, or the what we call the control tower for aircraft from Lagos to Abuja. How do we manage all of those things? I think we should begin to reason very clearly, think very clearly. We should talk less about the activities, what we do, how we play there. But we should talk more about how we can be co-owners, of that infrastructure, that where everybody does his or her own business, whether you're doing music and all of those things. Because our values and our systems and the things that we do, all of these things are going to go into the cyberspace, whether we like it or not. We are in the 21st century and it's there. We're never going to go back to where we're coming from. That being said, now relating it to COVID-19. The COVID-19 issue is just a fallout of the surge that we have seen in people going online. And so we now see what we call it now. We now see everybody has suddenly become a doctor online. Everyone has suddenly become every other thing that they can offer. So all this free internet that we see everywhere, what is free in those internet is a point for mining Nigeria data. Free mining of Nigeria data. If you get to other airports, international airports, before you can log on to their airport, their internet space, there are certain things they ask you before you can log on. But if you come into the Nigeria airspace, you just log on. And that's it. So I'm saying that the infrastructure, government should have a way to play a part in the ownership and control of this infrastructure, and that is very, 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 very key. And let us not see cybercrime as all bad, because there's also what we call the economics of cybercrime, or the economics of cyberspace. And that is why we have the police. And I'm very, very glad that he's speaking, very intelligently this morning. The police, for instance, you cannot just say police is just it's meant for just arresting people. But there's also the economics of the policing, where they can make your life, better, arrest you, ensure that they treat you well, and then you become a better person in the end. So there are various ways that we can also earn, better things from the cyberspace as a country, as a people. And that is, for me, very, very instructive and very, very, very important. I think I should just put that one through this morning.
Dr. Bayero Agabi and indeed the other gentlemen who are here with us in the Abuja studios would like to take a short break. Now, when we return, we'll continue with the conversation and also access the tweets that have come in from our viewers.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 42
72. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
You're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. We've been discussing COVID-19 and cyber crimes. We have a number of tweets that came in from our respondents, and would like to read them out now so that our guests can respond to them. Nandom G. Wayab tweets, ability to predict and prevent a crime rather than simply react after is better. Be careful when using public wireless fidelity or Wi-Fi, as anyone nearby who is connected to the same network can listen in on what your computer is sending and receiving across the internet.
Law Alpha C says cybercrime is the order of the day in certain crimes across the globe. It's advisable to avoid cyberspace when one is not accustomed to the requisite safety precautions.
Mwaha Chigoze tweets, for me, I think the federal government should look into sustainable job creation to reduce cybercrime. Some of the people that indulge in it are graduates. Frustration lure them into looking for sharp way to make ends meet.
Yunusa Idris, cyber crimes can be curbed or minimized by severely punishing those Yahoo boys, and the society should stop celebrating and accepting those elements in the country. And
first tweet, Kimboewa tweets, unfortunately, criminals are using COVID-19 to scam people and their businesses. These remorseless criminals are experts in impersonating people and organizations. Nigerians should be careful not to visit fraudulent websites, open phishing emails, and part with their money and information.
Steve Bond 007, avoid pyramid schemes. Don't do online banking on a public Wi-Fi. The use of date of birth as a password should be discouraged, but a password should be mixed with alpha numerals. I take that again. Avoid pyramid schemes. That's the same as Ponzi schemes. Those ones we see MMM that ruined people in this country some years ago. Avoid those schemes. That's what Steve Bond is saying. Do not do online banking on a public Wi-Fi. You think it's free. As the saying goes, free food not there for free tongue.
At all.
The use of date of birth as a password should be discouraged, but the password should be mixed with alpha numerals.
Yes, and Ikeju or Lagbaju tweets, the crime gets sophisticated every day, but your instinct ability to recognizing phishing emails will help a lot. There are mobile defense applications that can be installed to prevent hackers. Finally, there should be a platform to report to law enforcement agencies on infractions.
Now, Chiki, that's the handle here. Cybercrime can be controlled by the revitalization of dead sectors in the economy that can help in job creation and thereby removing the minds or attention of the unemployed from illegal means of earning a living.
And Nwagogo Ikechukwu Silvano Street, cybercrime with regards to COVID-19. Criminals are smart people. They are always on the watch for opportunities to strike. So we look at it from the aspect of poverty in the country. COVID-19 having depleted the economy of all nations, thereby deepening poverty among the citizenry.
Chris Simeon, during this COVID-19 period, a number of bank accounts have been hacked. Fraudsters and terrorists are using online platforms to defraud people, so be careful.
Omogbola Babs tweets, one way to curb cyber crimes is provide avenues that will make the youths productive. It may not end, but it's a sure way to reduce its prominence. Many youths look up to these criminals as role models and therefore take after them regardless of whatever it takes.
Montana Farouk says cybercrime is a global scourge that threatens the welfare of citizens. Cybercrime poses potential hazards capable of bringing tragic end to global economies, since the world economy operates in the precincts of science and tech.
And that's the new world order. Actually, Daily Jack Solomon tweets, financial motivated hackers have in fact been profiting from such feelings of uncertainty to target businesses and specifically retool existing malicious programs, such as ransomware, which is a type of malicious program used by hackers to take control of files in an infected system and then demand larger payments to recover them.
Ali Bew tweets, the government has one of the finest, most competent anti-cybercrime departments under the office of the NSA, that's the National Security Advisor, and the EFCC. All they need to do is to strengthen them in taking total control of internet service providers' activities and increase monitoring capacity. So those are the tweets we take in the meantime. Let's bring in again DCP Frank Oba. DCP Frank Oba, while you were explaining the categories of players in cybercrime, like you talked about cyber farmers, cyber middlemen, and cyber hackers, and all of that, the various roles that they play. Earlier, you also talked about a young man, who created an app by which he can alter the identity of electronic gadgets, including smartphones and so on and so forth. The question always arises, fine, what is the philosophical approach of the law enforcement agencies, the police in particular in this instance, towards these persons who are arrested? Because for any young person, or indeed an old person, to sit down and then create, if you like, a counter app requires a great deal of intellect. Are these persons just treated as common criminals? Yes. Or they could also be harvested for purposes of enhancing law enforcement? I'm asking this question because a couple of years ago, I wouldn't know whether Sudengi was part of that conversation here on Good Morning Nigeria. One of our guests, who's also been a consultant in the office of the NSA, did say that Switzerland was designing a system, and therefore, to ensure the greater security of the system it was designing, it threw a bid open, had an open bid for hackers to apply. And whoever was able to hack into the system was going to get a reward of at least $30,000 or more. That way, they could tap into the intellect of potential hackers and then look at the weaknesses of the system that they were creating, get back to work to fortify the job that they are doing. Now, obviously, this is a new territory for the Nigeria police. I would say that because from what Sodengi has also said, the space for hackers and indeed other cyber criminals to operate is continually widening. So what is the philosophy in terms of dealing with these elements? I mean, it's like you're taking, in those days when you used to have armed robbers, you have one who is singing, who will be cooperative, and so on and so forth. Are we exploring this? Do we also, what else are we seeing amongst particularly the young persons as they are running wild in cyberspace?
Thank you, Kingsley. I think I share the philosophy that you've explained. The truth really is still a developing turf, not just in Nigeria but even elsewhere in the world. The FBI, for example, continuously are reassessing their cyber competency and strengthening it and developing the competence and capacity of the operatives within their cyber divisions. And that's the same thing we're doing. Recently, what we've done is taking a second look at our ICT college in Abeokuta. Interestingly, that college was established a long time ago, and it was supposed to be a very strong institution, probably working even in collaboration with some other Nigerian universities in developing competencies amongst police officers and other law enforcement agencies in how to handle cyber-related and ICT-related crimes. But unfortunately, it was left behind. But IGP Mohammed Adamu has taken a second look at the Police ICT College in Abeokuta, and as I speak to you, a lot of work is going on, lots of activities are going on there. On the issue of how we deal with some of these suspects, I will tell you that, that there is one of the suspects that we nicknamed the FBI, honestly. We arrested him while I was in Lagos. He was arrested on a couple of times. In fact, he did one crazy thing. This guy is a dropout from the university. He was driving a professor, and then he laid his hand on a professor's ATM card, and then one day took hold of Prof's ATM and hijacked all the transaction there, identify the phone numbers that is the recipient of alerts from the prof, that particular account, diverted the calls, and then for almost 1 week he was on a spending spree, and Prof was not getting any alerts. But all Prof knew was that his phone number was not working. And then he kept saying, okay, because he has other line, a second line, he felt, okay, I will fix it later, I'll fix it later. And it took him like 1 week to create the time to go and get his line fixed. And by the time he fixed his line, there was a torrent of alerts. And then the thing were just, all messages were just coming, and then as Prof was looking, in fact, Prof almost collapsed. This guy has done so much shopping. He has paid for house. He has rented a new apartment for the girlfriend. They had furnished it. They bought all the electronics. And by the time we got hold of him, in fact, when the investigation started and it was pointed towards him, Prof almost stopped the investigation because Prof never believed that his driver, trusted smart driver, could. Cut the long story short, we zeroed it on him and everything became clear. Prof didn't believe it initially, but it turned out to be true. Prof didn't even allow us to prosecute the guy. We recovered the much we can, retrieve a lot of those items, they were still brand new, and got back so much cash for Prof. But this guy became our friend because Prof refused that we shouldn't prosecute him. But he became our friend. And honestly, he was almost like a consultant in cyber-related investigations. And I encourage him to go back to school. I've been in touch with him up to today.
Has he graduated now?
He's in his final year now.
Oh, that's great.
Those are the kind of persons that if you are able to mentor and get him into the system, he could become a very big asset to the system. So we're looking at those kind of policies, but they are also very slippery policies. They are they also come with a lot of danger on their own, because it's like when you say you have de-radicalized a terrorist. He might have shown you every sign that you have successfully de-radicalized them, but he could also suffer a mutation.
Just like a drug.
Yes, he can also suffer a mutation and a relapse. So it's something that we're looking at, and in the past we've also used some of them as state witnesses against some of their colleagues. And when they stand in the witness box to give testimonies, they do them so well.
All right, DCP Frank Uba, thanks a lot. You're always full of these anecdotes. Today's one is on FBI. That's the nickname of the young man, and happily is turning a new bend. We have a number of other tweets that have come in. Let's quickly take them and then get into gets to give their closing thoughts. Cecilia Okoroma says many corrupt leaders are the promoters of cyber crimes. A young person who doesn't have a genuine means of livelihood overnight starts swimming in affluence, and nobody bothers to query that, but rather the criminal is celebrated by others.
Ibrahim Abdusalam tweets, the upsurge in cybercrime is really disturbing, and most especially in this lockdown. The perpetrators see this time as a fertile ground for their operations. Good enough, the office of the IGP had earlier warned citizens to be careful because there is the possibility of such crimes.
Clifford Aguguese, I totally agree with DCP Frank Uba on the conspiratorial silence of Nigerians on cyber crimes and cyber criminalities. Now, this must change. The relevant cyber soldiers to decimate cyber criminals are operating in silos currently.
Still, Ibrahim Abdussalam Bello, there is need for serious education of the internet users on the use of the internet. The government should moderate sites that are allowed in the country. Agencies like ICPC should go after money doubling online companies like Binomo and its likes.
Ibrahim Tudu, cyber crimes are widespread and devastating. There is a need to declare sustained war on cyber criminals, not only during COVID-19.
And Richard Chengi tweets, the government needs to put in more serious measures to attack these cyber crimes on the internet. It brings a bad name to the nation.
Cecilia Koroma one more time says, did we need FBI to tell us that Hush Puppy and others are involved in crime? Overnight, a man wakes up, flaunts his wealth on the media, buys fleets of expensive cars, buys houses in choice areas, buys jets, displays stacks of dollars, glaring a show of criminality, and nobody cares.
Audu Musa Ajanaku tweets, in Israel, these sets of genius, when apprehended, are recruited into the Celebrates, an IT security firm for global security purposes. Why are we not doing the same? Rather than security liabilities, they are made security assets. Let's do the same.
Well, Frank Uba has just explained, what's going in that regard.
We have one FBI.
Yeah, that's right. Alaiton Graphics, that's the Twitter handle. Good morning. The young man, the police officer was discussing, should be used to their advantage and not put him in a mosquito cell. Every man has a talent, and we use it to survive. I believe he can work with the police to track other criminals. Again, Frank Uba has already explained. I'm sure that there are several other examples. We don't have to disclose everything.
First is Akumbe criminals are exploiting COVID-19 to commit fraud, and we should be alert and take extra care online. If you receive an email claiming your phone has been selected to win money and asks you to click on the link or give information like your name, account number, or bank details, it's a scam.
Okay, DCP Ifeanyi Henry Uche of Interpol, one point that has come out of the tweets, and we're going to ask it anyway, how much interagency collaboration do we find in our efforts to tackle cyber crimes? How much interagency cooperation? Are you working in silos?
Well, actually, we are doing a lot in that regard. We are not actually working in silos. We are working with other agencies. For instance, NIDA. Last week I was, with the guy in charge of cybersecurity in NIDA, and we discussed a couple of things on areas of collaboration, mainly information sharing. Because the actual problem that we're having in our agencies and in Nigeria, involving law enforcement agencies, of course, is that we don't like to share information. But with the recent collaboration that is going on between agencies, the NIDA, NCC, the EFCC, and other relevant agencies, we're actually coming together discussing on the best models, the best way to curb this menace that is affecting the whole society and the world at large. So the collaboration is ongoing, and we are doing a lot to that regards.
Okay, so then let's try and get your closing thoughts. What more would you like to see on an individual level and then institutional level in terms of enhancing our cyber security?
I would speak more on the individual level. I would say that we government and all government parties have a responsibility to improve and increase education. I think we need to do far more in educating people. And then this issue, there's again this issue of the digital divide. You know, as people come to use tools, get on the internet, we must find other ways, non-traditional ways, to teach people about cybersecurity and cyber safety. We must do so in our languages. We must do so in our informal places of work, and so on and so forth. NIDA is already doing some of that, but there's need for collaboration to drive that. On the, I would say that what is required, I mean, collaboration is at the center of what is required, even, you know, to have a comprehensive approach towards tackling cybercrime. I would also say that all the available tools, you know, from the Cyber Crimes Act to all the regulations, practices, all the policies we know, the technology available, we must seek to use these things properly and deeply, you know, before we even talk about other laws. I think that there's just so much in our toolkit, from laws to regulations to frameworks for information security, for instance, that we need to practice, especially for government entities and industries that hold large cache of information of citizens. I think we need to do more, because when we have a ransomware, you know, if we have a ransomware attack, it will be devastating. So we need to be careful to prevent things like that from happening and protect the systems and protect Nigerians, you know, invariably. Thank you.
Kashim Sundagi. We'll go to Lagos now, where Dr. Bayero Agabi is waiting. Is regulation possible in this country, as your closing thoughts?
Yeah, the word regulation usually play up a lot of sentiments. Yes, it is possible, but I use the word moderation, because government can actually moderate players and how they play within the ecosystem. You know, as I said, you know, we have Glo One, we have Sat1, we have WAX, we have so many other companies. MTN has his, you know, Airtel has his. All this proliferation of internet, you know, lines and all of this coming into the country, I think government can harmonize them, be part of it, to know what goes in and what comes out. But what hits me most is that NIDA is doing a fantastic job, at least to be given the responsibility of developing, regulating, harmonizing is a huge job. But to the extent that they have an entire department for cyber security, not find anywhere else. And then when you go to NCS, there's also a department for cyber security, and then we have the NSC. But looking forward, like we are seeing other countries are doing, I think we should have a national cyber security agency that can be birthed either by NIDA or NIDA and NCC coming together to birth that kind of a thing. Or we can even have a cyber security ministry like any other, so that it can harmonize, you know, all of these issues we are talking about, and work with the police, work with every other person, so that development can bog down NIDA, because it is huge. How can you develop information technology for 200 million people? That is a huge task. You know, like NCC providing infrastructure and all of those other things, it is a huge task. I think we should have an agency whose core mandate will be for cybersecurity, because if we don't, we are talking about the next level, which is just about 2-3 years away. What happens if we just wake up one day and our, what we call it now, a single treasury account is empty?
Dr. Bayero Agabi from Lagos. Frank Uba, briefly, very briefly, your final thoughts.
Well, I think we just continue this conversation. We need to put out these messages strongly without making our people to become paranoid. They need to understand that these threats are real, and we must work together to deal with them. And again, I also think we must bring down our communication to a level where people will understand. For example, hacking. When people hear hacking, they think it's something coming from the moon. Hacking is analogous to housebreaking or burglary. When somebody breaks into your system without authorization, that's hacking. You know, cyber squatting is when somebody comes and just take ownership of your cyberspace and remain there and demand for certain things to be done before they leave. Ransomware is just like kidnapping. Somebody just comes and hijack your entire system and begin to make demand that if you don't pay a certain sum of money, your system will remain encrypted. It is only when you pay, usually in Bitcoin, that you can now decrypt them. So we must work together, and I think for me, most importantly, is all these illicit funds flowing around. We must question our young ones. People should stop celebrating illicit wealth and applauding criminals.
Okay, thank you so much, DCP Frank Umbaforce, Public Relations Officer. It's been a pleasure, as always, to have you in the program.
Thank you.
And Kashim Sodangi, National Coordinator, Office for Nigeria, Local Content in ICT, National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA. Thank you so much for your input.
Thank you for having
and
me.
DCP Ifeanyi Henry Uche, Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of Cybercrime Unit, Interpol, National Central Bureau, Nigeria Police Force. Thank you so much. And Dr. Bayero Agabi, Member, Presidential Committee on Data Harmonization and President, Center for Cyber Awareness and Development, CICAD. Dr. Agabi is also Vice President, Nigeria Internet Group. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you so much.
All right, so that does it for us there. Good morning, Nigeria. As always, we appreciate your tuning in. The program returns tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, stay safe and be well. I am Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. To have a wonderful day. And remember to adhere to personal hygiene protocols, observe the physical distancing, and ensure that you wear your face masks.